The Phantom Archives of Edgar the Architect and Schale by Jen Kagami. Volume 20. Taiwan. The altar of the incarnate chimera and the harmony of Jhihben animism fusion. 1. Shell ginger leaves and cloudy millet wine. Hey Edgar. The meat and rice wrapped in this leaf are incredibly chewy and delicious, and my hands are getting all sticky. Around the time when the small metal sphere created by humanity first began to look down upon the Earth from the cold expanse of space. On a tropical island covered in the suffocating silence of martial law, in the Katipool settlement of Jhihben in eastern Taiwan. In the intense sunlight shining into the cool earthen floor of an old elder's house, Schale was innocently stuffing his cheeks with the traditional Puyuma food abai, wrapped in shell ginger leaves. Enveloping his fragile limbs was an ultra-fine linen shirt, woven to the absolute limit to repel the violence of the humidity and heat rays of this land. The sweaty air clung stickily to his porcelain-like skin. The trichodesma leaves wrapped inside neutralize the pork fat and aid digestion. It is a magnificent logic of survival that perfectly understands the climate and terroir of this land, as well as the structure of the human body. Edgar turned his cold profile like marble completely devoid of moisture and tilted a bisque cup filled with cloudy millet wine. Enveloping his body was an ink-black summer jacket tailored in a highly twisted fresco weave, permitting absolutely no loss of shape, even amidst the maddening humidity of the subtropics. This wine is the same. It is fermented not by time managed by someone, but relying solely on the wild yeast drifting through the suffocating air of these tropics. It is a magnificent design that converted the savagery of nature directly into motive power for the purposefulness of its own intoxication and heat. The place we head to next is the same. It is an architecture like a miracle, where foreign doctrine and the wildness of this soil harmonize at an extreme dimension without killing each other. Edgar quietly delivered his words and stood up. Schale, too, innocently licked the stickiness of the millet off his pearl-coloured fingertips and rose from his seat. Stepping outside, the suffocating scent of greenery and the hot wind roughly whipped the linen shirt. 2. Slate skin and incarnate saints. Wow. It's amazing right from the entrance. Even though it's a Western church, it's covered in black slate stone and undulating wooden carvings. It looks somewhat terribly mysterious. Treading the red clay path, Schale blinked his long eyelashes standing before the Immaculate Conception Church of Jhihben. It is the result of directly translating the Baroque desire for excessive decoration through the indigenous carving techniques of the Puyuma. At this point, it is already tinged with a heat that is no mere imitation. Edgar sank both hands into the pockets of his ink-black jacket and threw open the heavy doors. The interior was dim, with continuous black slate walls that tightened the space heavily. Glancing sideways at the silence of the strange square backrests of the lined-up chairs, Schale looked up at the wooden pillars. Edgar, look. The ones carved into the pillars are the Virgin Mary and the saints, right? But their features are so deep they look like gods of the forest. A magnificent chimera. The missionaries from Switzerland did not commit the foolish act of bleaching them with pure white Western doctrine. They deeply respected the techniques of this land and the vitality of its animism, incorporating them exactly as they were into the skeleton of the church. The cold sound of shoes struck the stone floor. At the front altar, against a backdrop of black slate and a sequence of rough bamboo, a statue of Christ was raised. A foreign god bears the nature terroir of this land, bamboo and stone. It is an incarnation pure to the point of madness. Schale, look at the chairs in the side aisles. Prompted by Edgar, Schale, who was approaching the altar, turned his gaze to the side. The moment he did, he gasped. Are these all people? The single-seat chairs, which from behind looked like mere strange blocks of wood, were, when viewed from the front, a flock of Puyuma wooden carvings clad in geometric traditional attire, staring straight at the altar. Countless wooden people were looking up at the cross in silence. 3. The tremor of the gospel and the frenzy of blessing. Amazing. Everyone is staring intently at the God on the altar. The air is so thick, and somehow my whole body is getting hot. The paintings on the walls and the people on the chairs look like they are about to take a deep breath at any moment. The interior of the church had passed the tranquility of a space for prayer and was dominated by an overwhelming heat of life. From the countless wooden people and the saints on the pillars to the Baroque-style murals painted above the entrance, every form filling the space played a perfect chord, becoming a suffocating vitality that warped their vision. Naturally, the serene prayer of monotheism and the blood-stirring emotion of animism, two vectors that by all rights should never intersect, are infinitely amplifying their thermal mass while blessing each other. This space is now beginning to pulse as a gargantuan heart named prayer. The moment Edgar muttered low, a faint wooden creak grit echoed from the countless wooden chairs filling the hall. It was not the sound of collapse, but the quickening of life. The statues of Mary on the pillars, the saints and the crowds in the murals surpassed the framework of materials, like wood and paint awaiting the words of the priest. The gospel that would soon be spoken, they began to tremble their bodies in rapture. Hide behind my back, Schale. A heat wave of faith that is too pure is crueler than any blade. Your eternity contour, translucent as thin ice, will easily be melted by that suffocating rapture of life. Schale, it comes. The prayer words has begun to spill miracles into reality. Western doctrine and the intense indigenous animism completely harmonize, and all forms awaiting the gospel tremble in rapture, transforming the supposedly inorganic church into the heart of a living forest. To harmonize two gods in a single box and manifest such vitality miracles in the space. It is the pinnacle of a prayer that is too pure. The ink-black jacket flourished. Edgar shielded the faintly trembling pearl-coloured hair behind his back. Around them, the wooden crowds and the people in the murals, having gained life, trembled as if bathing in an invisible shower of the gospel. And the entire space was filled with a blessing light and frenzy bordering on violence. Everyone looks so happy, but it's too hot to stand. If we stay here, it feels like we'll revert to mere earth and leaves. Schale cinched the collar of his linen shirt tightly away from the overflowing vortex of life. The essence of design is always purposefulness, Schale. Did you solve someone's problem in a way only you could, at a higher dimension of beauty or rationality? To resolve two incompatible prayers as such a high-dimensional incarnation, while preserving each's dignity, it is undoubtedly the supreme design. Edgar's wax-white fingertips quietly and seemingly with lingering regret separated from the altar pulsating in rapture. It is perfect. However, it is entirely too alive. For us, cold beings wandering outside of time, the thermal mass of this life is too dazzling. Come, let us return, Schale. This is a beautiful and sacred cradle for the living. The reversing back of cold-blooded cutting tore through the heated air. The moment the heavy doors were closed, the overwhelming trembling of life behind them was completely severed by the thick stone walls. Looking back, the architecture seemed completely assimilated into the surrounding jungle, breathing quietly as a single gargantuan life form. Outside, the intense sun was scorching the suffocating greenery. The two began to walk down the red clay path with their backs to the quiet chimera. The Western god and the god of this island were really good friends, weren't they? Schale let his pearl fingertips peek from his linen cuffs, innocently scooping the humid wind. To combine their powers and create such incredible heat, but it was a little too hot for us, naturally. To us, who live in the frozen time known as eternity, the ultimate life is a lethal dose of poison. Edgar's glacial profile suddenly narrowed softly. The crystallization of living prayer woven by mortals. We were shown something not bad at all. Hey Edgar, that shell ginger leaf over there, at the end of Schale's lowered gaze. In a corner of the church grounds, a thick stem of shell ginger growing from a gap in the stone walls spread, its gargantuan lush leaves bathing in the intense sunlight. Entirely unbothered by the abnormal heat surrounding it, or the heavy pressure of the stone, it merely sucked up the moisture there and swayed in the wind. Even though such an amazing miracle is right beside it, it's blooming beautifully, looking like it doesn't care at all. Edgar stopped his feet, quietly looking down at the fresh green leaves. They are the same. Devouring light, spreading leaves, a perfect survival strategy to circulate its own life. Both that frenzied church space and this single leaf exist on the exact same dimension regarding the purposefulness of connecting life. Deep respect floated upon the profile that looked carved from a glacier. Both that beautifully trembling altar of the chimera and this single leaf taking root in the red earth are equally perfect designs. Now let us go, Schale. We have been slightly too exposed to the suffocating era of earth and blood. Right now we long for inorganic air, coldly managed by steel and glass. End of Volume 20.